No way. No way. No way. That doesn't even make sense. Couldn't disagree anymore. What is up, everybody? I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in forever. It feels so long because we actually have somewhat of sports. We have some more sports talk going on. For those of you watching the YouTube video, we got this very, very badass sign with the Backyard Sport Takes logo. Unfortunately, I record off my computer. Need to get a camera. I know. So it's backwards. But we're going to make do. It is what it is. Like I said at the very beginning of this podcast, it's not perfect. We are evolving and getting better and better. So, first, The Last Dance. This documentary, is this not the best thing you've ever seen as far as you're getting insight into the highest level of winningness in basketball? I didn't know that story about Rodman. I had no idea about that story about Rodman, that he went to Phil and he said, "Hey, I need a vacation." And Mike's like, "Vacation? Motherfucker, I need a vacation. You're talking about you need a vacation. What the fuck you need a vacation for?" He said, he's talking about, "Oh, I just give me 48 hours." And Michael told Phil, he said, "Don't, he ain't coming back. You give him 48 hours, he ain't coming back. I know Dennis, he ain't coming back." So he said, come on, just give him 48 hours. So they gave him 48 hours. Well, he didn't come back in 48 hours. He was out partying in Vegas, Karma Electra. And it just, the stories like that you never hear, that, back then there wasn't, the social media presence wasn't as huge. Like we hear all these little stories. We hear the little story about uh, Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. They're still mad at each other. Like we hear the smallest of stories from the reporters, and you didn't hear about this stuff back then. I mean, it's just an amazing story that they get to share about Dennis Rodman. It just showed who Dennis Rodman was. Yeah, he wanted to play, but man, did he want to party. Dennis Rodman wanted to Dennis Rodman. It's like that line in Tiger King ripping off that girl's arm. Yeah, what do you expect? It's a tiger. You send Dennis Rodman to Vegas, he doesn't come back in 48 hours. Yeah, what do you expect? It's Dennis fucking Rodman. And he didn't care. He embraced that bad guy kind of, I do the dirty work, I don't need to score. And it shows how much Michael needed him in order to win, how much Michael wanted him at the back end of his championship runs, because they won without him. They won championships without him, but those back end championships, he really needed him so bad that he was going all over Las Vegas looking for him. And I just thought it was awesome. And like I said last week, Jordan was going to take a stab at the bad boys, and you were going to get a little insight about the bad boys. I mean, it talks about it in the 30 for 30 with the bad boys. Doesn't really talk about it in the Last Dance, but there's speculation that on that dream team that went over and won the gold medal, we have Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, John Stockton, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, just the studs of all studs going over and winning a gold medal. He was the reason that John Stockton, or that Isaiah Thomas wasn't on that team. And there was a lot of players that did not like Isaiah Thomas. They didn't like the way he played, and they didn't like the way his team played. And as you saw with Michael Jordan, he still has bad blood for him, and he still is not interested in having any kind of relationship with Isaiah Thomas. You saw he got the iPad where he got the initial reaction of Isaiah Thomas, and he's like, it don't matter what he said, he's still an asshole, and you can't convince me that he's not gonna be an asshole till this day. Now I'm glad it got into it and it talked about the Celtics did the same thing to the Pistons that the Pistons did to the Bulls. It's just that the Bulls didn't like it. The Pistons took it when the Celtics walked off of the court and they didn't shake their hands. The bad boys, Pistons, they took it. They said, that's what happens. That's what they do. They make a grand last finale walking out, without shaking our hands. That's what happens. Michael didn't like that. Until this day, Michael still does not like that. He thinks if you lose, you should shake the other guy's hand. I agree, but different times, and it was a different time back then. And I get it. It still rubs him the wrong way till this day. He's held a grudge till this day. Um, that's like I said in the last episode, that's what makes Michael, is that remembrance of every little thing that happened. I mean, you saw in the documentary, they said that the Bulls were going to lose in 5 games. And he goes up. One of them said he's going to lose in 5 games. One of them said he's going to. Oh, one of them said he's going to lose in 4. One of them said 5. One of them said 6. He goes up to the reporter. He said, "I already made you look stupid. I made you look stupid. I'm gonna make you look stupid tonight, and tomorrow I'm gonna make you look stupid." I mean, he holds grudges, and that's what makes Michael. That's what makes Kobe. That's what makes LeBron is they understand that they fuel they use these things as fuel, and it fuels their play out there. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, well, you shouldn't have to have extra fuel to go play the game, if you're a professional." No, you shouldn't. But to play on that type of level, you have to take it up a notch to a different level. Um, that is what Michael knew. That is what all these players knew. That's what Kevin Durant knew when he was going to Golden State. You have to take it up a level and you have to start winning. And Michael knew that I got the scoring titles, I got the defensive player of the year, I got the dunk contest, I got the rookie of the year, I got the All-Star game MVP. I'm balling. I got the regular season MVP, but I haven't won. I haven't won it. He knew in order to be talked about with, at the time, the greats were Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. They have ran the league for the last 10 years. They're the greats. I mean, obviously the bad boys had their 2 championships in there, but for the most part, those are kind of East Coast, West Coast royalty. And he knew he had to win. And he just thought it took one. He just thought, I win one, I'm in that conversation with them with all my accolades and everything. And so they go and they bring Phil in after they lose to the Pistons the second time. And, everybody wants to say that Michael Jordan would not be Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. Michael Jordan would not be Michael Jordan without Dennis Rodman. Michael Jordan would not be Michael Jordan without Phil Jackson. And you're right. You're right. He wouldn't. But he is. I hate that what ifs, the what ifs of sports of oh, he wouldn't be this if not for this. No shit. Nobody would. Tom Brady would not be Tom Brady without the New England Patriots and the great organization and Robert Kraft and the great head coach of Bill Belichick. What are you talking about? Like Jerry Rice would not be Jerry Rice without Montana. I mean, well, duh. Like, what are we talking about? It's all these ifs. Derek Jeter would not be Derek Jeter if he wasn't on the Yankees, but he was. But they were. This is reality. They were. You want to talk about reality? Michael or LeBron James would not have a championship. He never went to the Miami Heat, but he did. But he did. The Spurs would have 6 championships if Ray Allen didn't hit that 3, but he did. Like, why do we put these what ifs that, oh, if this would have happened, well, if I would have played 5 quarters, I would have won the game. No shit. If I was faster, taller, stronger, and better looking, I'd probably be playing in the NFL right now. There's a bunch of what ifs of life, but it don't matter. Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan because he had Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. He had Steve Kerr hit clutch shots down the stretch. Phil Jackson coaching him with the triangle offense. Yeah, he still did it. I never understand those what ifs. The what ifs of sports. Well, he wouldn't be this if not for that. But he is. I hate that. I can't stand that. Now I get if you're talking about skill and you're talking about greatness, 2 different things. Greatness and skill are not the same thing. Aaron Rodgers is better at throwing the football than Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the GOAT. He's the GOAT. Kobe Bryant would have been Kobe Bryant would have been what James Harden is. A pure scorer, amazing pure scorer, better defense. He has more all defensive teams. But the championships are what makes him great. You don't think LeBron knows that? Hence him going to Miami? You don't think KD knows that? Hence going to Golden State? Championships validate you. They just do. There's so many players that played in the Michael Jordan era that were not validated in that talk because of Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller, Elijah if Jordan didn't retire, but he did, so he got those 2 rings. That's why Elijah is held in such high regards. This is reality. If you don't win in the NBA, it's tough. It's real tough to be a great. I heard a story about Draymond Green. He was on All the Smoke podcast with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, and he was talking about kind of what broke them up about with their team, and he knew Kevin was leaving, and what kind of did it for him. So let me take you back a little bit of time to kind of explain the timeline. So Draymond Green, back in 15, they had just won their first championship. He was up for a new contract. He could ask for the max, and his agent came to him and said, "You can take the max, but this guy right here is going to be a free agent, and if you don't take the max, I think you have a good chance of getting him on the team." And he was pointing at Kevin Durant, and Draymond's like, "Word? You think we can get Kevin? Nah, you think?" They're like, "Yeah, I know you can." So this is before the 16th season. So the infamous story of LeBron beating Draymond and Draymond in his car crying to Kevin Durant, that apparently to him, obviously, why would he admit to that? But I'm just telling you what he said. That didn't happen. This is what happened. He knew in 15 that he could get Kevin Durant. So in 16, so he signs his contract. In 16, they go out and they win 73 games, and they go out and they lose the 3-1 lead to the Cavs, and LeBron gets his first championship in Cleveland, his last championship. And he gets in the car and he's thinking, man, well, we lost, it is what it is. We got to get better. How can we get better? So he gets on the phone with Kevin. He says, "Yo, you trying to come?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna come." Like, what you mean? He's like, all right. So a couple weeks go by. He talks to Steph and Clay, like, "Hey, I think we can get Kevin. You guys want to do it? You guys in? You guys in on this decision?" And they're like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's do it." I mean, why not? Add another scorer, great all around player. Let's do it. So then he calls Kevin up again, and he says, "Hey, Steph and Clay, they're on board. Iggy, he's on board. Sean Livingston, we're all in, man. Let's do it." So they go, and Kevin comes over. And he's having fun, and it's fun again for him. He could just hoop. There's no pressure on him, and that's just a great feeling for him. And he goes out and he wins the championship, and he hits that dagger in LeBron's face, and it's everything's about Kevin. He gets the MVP of the finals, and it's such a great feeling, and it just didn't do it. It didn't put him over LeBron for a lot of people, and a lot of people still thought LeBron was the greatest player in the league, and that rubbed Kevin the wrong way. That rubbed KD the wrong way, and so KD comes out in 17, no, in 18. This would have been 18, and he's just not feeling it. And there's a lot of, "Hey, why Steph not giving me the ball? Why Clay not giving me the ball?" And he's like, "Hey, man, that's what they do. Like sometimes they just go out and they get hot, they shoot." And so KD's getting mad. They go out, win the championship, but it's just not there. The winning the championship isn't validating his career like he thought it would have, as far as putting him over LeBron. And so by 18, he knew he was out. He knew he was leaving, just like Tom Brady knew he was leaving a year ago. He knew he was leaving, and he thought that these championships would validate his career over LeBron, but it didn't. It didn't do that for him, and obviously he came out and he never came out and said, "I'm leaving next year." And Draymond said that would have been better if they would have known, in advance, as far as just kind of beating around the bush. But I just thought that was so interesting. He comes over and he knows he needs to win championships, and it doesn't validate him the way he thought it would have with LeBron going to Miami. Because that's all that decision was about. KD coming to Golden State, he thought was an okay decision because LeBron went to Miami. And I get it. It's not the same. He joined a 73 win team that beat him the year before. I get it. It would have been like LeBron going to the Celtics, but that was the thought process there of that decision. And for me, everybody wants to say that Kevin Durant started the super team and the moving teams. No, LeBron started that. LeBron started it. Kevin just took it to another level because he thought he needed to validate his career, which he has seen in recent years. That's what happens. All those great players in the 80s and 90s didn't get a ring and they weren't validated. You think AI wishes he could have got a ring and got past Kobe and Shaq? You don't think he wishes he had a couple of those rings to validate that career that he had? Of course. Of course. Rings mean everything in the NBA. Rings validated that Warriors dynasty. Rings are what's going to put Steph Curry in the Hall of Fame, along with the shooting. Rings will put Klay Thompson in the Hall of Fame, along with the shooting and defense. I don't think rings will put Draymond in the Hall of Fame, but you get what I'm saying. Is rings validate talent. I don't think Damian Lillard will be in the Hall of Fame. I think Russell Westbrook might because he's so talented and the level at what he plays, but never win a ring. I think James Harden could be in the Hall of Fame, probably should be, but without the rings, it's hard to say you're a no doubter. It's real hard to say you're a no doubter in the Hall of Fame. It's just tough. Championships validate winning in basketball. And that is why LeBron is trying to get this season going. LeBron's trying to be like, hey man, we got a good fucking shot at winning this championship. We need to play this champion. We need to play the rest of this season. This needs to be played out. And they say that it might be played out. It might not. I know a story came out that said execs in the NBA said that they don't want to just play just to play if there's no economic reasoning for it. LeBron came out and said that's total bullshit. There's no GM saying that. It is what it is. But if they continue out the season, they finish around July and August. Apparently, the next NBA season is rumored to be started around the Christmas time, which it makes so much sense. I heard Mark Cuban talking about this, and it just makes so much sense that why start your season at the end of September, beginning of October, or they start mid-October, I believe. Why start around mid-October when football is still going on and basketball is really not relevant until Christmas, and the Christmas Day games? Why even do that? And why not push it back more? And the argument back then was a lot of people don't like to watch during the summer. The summer viewings are down, but now that's not the case. Unfortunately, people aren't outside doing things. If there's a game on, we're watching. People aren't outside as much as they used to be maybe back in the day. They're more inside, and if there's sports on, they're gonna get views. And the finals gets very good views at the beginning of summer. It leads all up into June. So I don't know. I think it works better just in today's age. It's kind of what Cuban was saying. He's been pushing it for a while, and if there's a time to try this, it would be now. And I know Adam Silver has wanted to try to maybe bring the regular season game number down. But then you got the old hats saying, whoa, you didn't play 82 games to win that the regular season to win that championship. Like, not like us, like grinding. I get that too. So we'll see what happens. It's very interesting, very fluid topic right now on what they're going to do and what the NBA is going to do. Very, very interesting. The last thing I kind of wanted to touch on before I get done was Jalen Hurts to the Eagles. I didn't get to talk about that. Obviously, I only talked about round one. I said I would come back on here if something huge happened. I think that's something huge, but I don't think it warranted coming on here to talk about. But I'm definitely going to touch on it now. I like Jalen Hurts, and I like Jalen Hurts for the same reason I like Dak Prescott. his work ethic, his intangibles, and he's a winner. You can't teach that. And I understand that when you need arm strength, you need arm talent, and I get that. And I wasn't putting Jalen Hurts in the conversation with Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, Herbert, even Jordan Love. I was not putting him in that conversation. I thought he was going to go in the third, fourth round. I wouldn't have minded if the Cowboys took him. But I like him for a lot of those reasons. There was a story about him working out during round one. Now everybody can say, well, he knew he wasn't going round one, but he might have. A team could have came up and reached for him, and it's not just impossible to say he wouldn't gone in the round one because he went in the second round, mid second round, or I guess late second round. So it's not impossible to say he wouldn't have gone in the first round, but he was working out. He was throwing passes on the day of the first round. They said it's draft day. He goes, so it's a work day for me. And I just thought that's Jalen Hurts. You heard all these stories about after the games he was working out. That's that Nick Saban work ethic that he instilled in himself. And obviously you have to have that in inside of you first, and then Nick Saban took it to another level, I believe. But it was the stories like that are something that you want to hear. And I think it's a good move for the Eagles. I really do. As much as I don't want them to do well, I don't like the Eagles at all, but it's a good move. Historically speaking, Carson will miss some time this year or have some kind of injury. Historically speaking, he's had 3 injuries, 3 seasons. I get it. The last one, it was a cheap shot. It shouldn't have happened. He took himself out of the game. I've heard players say good for him for doing that, player safety first. I've heard other players say that if that was my quarterback, I would have been pissed that he took himself out of the game. Hey, that's up for you to debate. I understand CT is a real thing. Concussions are real and something that shouldn't be played with. It is what it is. But for the last 3 seasons, he's had an injury of some sorts. Not all his fault. I've heard tons of stuff about that training staff and some of the stuff that they've messed up on, and you saw it a lot last year. And why do you think Carson Wentz was throwing to backup wide receivers? Because they were all hurt. It is what it is. You can blame the training staff. You can blame Carson Wentz. But he's going to have an injury. He's going to have something, whether it's a finger, his thumb, like a Drew Brees injury, his back. Jalen Hurts will play in a meaningful game in the regular season at some point in the season, more or less. That's just the nature of Carson Wentz and the Eagles. That's not a knock on him, and I use that as a knock on him, but it's just reality. You can spin it however way you want, but that's just reality. He'll get hurt eventually. So I think it's a great move for Jalen Hurts, great move for the Eagles, because they may use him in this Taysom Hill kind of slot. I don't think that needs to be necessarily done. I think Jalen's going to get better as a quarterback playing behind Carson, and I think he's going to get some actual quarterback reps, in a meaningful game. There was talks about him going and being a running back, and I just shook my head at that. That's absolutely he's not hyper fast, like hyper athletic as far as speed is concerned. He just makes guys miss. He has great angles when he runs with the ball, but not from a running back standpoint, not at that level. So apparently it was fake news, so thank God. But I just shook my head when I saw that. They said they might work him out as a receiver. Okay, but you're going to have to teach him technique. You're going to have to teach him routes. Just use him as an offensive weapon, but understand that you're going to need him to play quarterback this year, from the Eagles standpoint at least. But I do think it was a good move. I do think. Now, could you have taken him in the 3rd round? Maybe. 2nd round may have been a little early. Is what it is. They thought that maybe somebody might come up and take him. Good for them for going out and getting the Jalen Hurts to the Eagles. And I think it can work. I really do. I think it could work for them, and I think he's going to benefit from being on that team. So that's all I got for you guys today. Hit me up if you got anything that you want me to talk about. Hit me up if you agree or disagree with anything I said today or anything I said in the past. I will talk to you guys later. Want to be bringing these pretty much every Friday around 1 noon. I think this one's gonna go up around 1. So be looking out for them around that time. That's usually the time I want to drop them now. So yeah, talk to you guys later. Peace.